All right, everybody, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Let's do it. Always ready to dig into something interesting.
Today, we're heading over to Tokyo. Well, not literally.
More like virtually, right? Through the magic of the internet and
Right.
research.
Exactly. We're taking a look at their experiment with a 4-day work week for government employees. I mean, who wouldn't want a 3-day weekend every week?
Sounds like a dream, right?
Seriously. But as you might guess, there's more to it than just extra time off. We dug into a bunch of articles, and it turns out this is actually part of a bigger strategy.
Yeah, Japan's facing some pretty serious challenges, and this is one way they're trying to address them.
Like what?
Well, one of the biggest ones is Japan's declining birth rate. It's actually a major concern.
Right, I saw something about that. The birth rate hit another record low, right? Something like 700,000 something births last year.
Yeah, you're right. It was only 727,277 births in all of Japan last year. To put that in perspective, you need a fertility rate of about 2.1 to keep a population stable.
Fertility rate, meaning the average number of children born per woman, right?
Exactly. And Japan's is only 1.2, so
Less than half of what they need.
it's a big problem, and the government is trying to find ways to encourage people to start families.
And a 4-day work week is part of that.
It is. It's one of several policies aimed at improving work-life balance, which they hope will make having kids more appealing. They've also got things like extended paternity leave and more flexible work arrangements.
So it's like, hey, work less, have more time for family, maybe you'll be more open to having kids.
Something like that, yeah. But, Japan is famous for its work culture, right?
Oh, yeah, long hours,
Yeah.
dedication to the company. It's almost like a badge of honor to work late.
Exactly. So how do you square that with a 4-day work week? That's one of the big questions surrounding this experiment.
It almost seems contradictory, right?
It does. It really highlights the tension between Japan's traditional work ethic and the demands of modern life, especially when it comes to raising a family. This policy is a potential shift in that thinking.
It's definitely a bold move. But I'm curious, what about productivity? Won't people get less done if they're working fewer hours?
That's a common concern, and some critics definitely argue that a shorter work week could lead to a decline in output. But there's actually a growing body of research that suggests otherwise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, several studies have shown that a 4-day work week can actually boost productivity. The idea is that when people have more time to rest and recharge, they come back to work more focused and energized. It's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between work and personal time.
It makes sense. If you're constantly burned out, you're probably not doing your best work anyway.
Exactly. Plus, there are other potential benefits too. Some companies that have implemented a 4-day week have reported things like improved employee morale, reduced stress levels, even lower absenteeism.
That's amazing. I also wonder if this could help close the gender gap in the workforce.
That's another interesting aspect. The World Bank data consistently shows Japan has a larger gender gap in labor force participation compared to a lot of other developed countries.
Right. I remember reading about that.
Yeah, they lag behind in a few key metrics like the number of women who are actually working or in positions of leadership, and they have a persistent gender pay gap.
So a 4-day week could potentially change that.
Potentially, yes. It might make it easier for women, especially those with children, to balance their work and family responsibilities. If they have that extra day, it could be a game changer for childcare, household tasks, all of that.
It seems like this one policy could have a ripple effect across so many different areas of society. It's pretty fascinating.
It is. And what's even more interesting is that this isn't just a Japan thing. The idea of a 4-day work week is gaining traction all over the world.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Iceland ran some pretty successful trials a few years back, and now companies in Spain, the UK, even here in the US are starting to experiment with it. It's seen as a way to attract and retain talent, improve work-life balance, and, yeah, potentially boost those productivity numbers.
So it's like Tokyo's kind of leading the way in Asia with this, right?
Yeah, it seems like it. Singapore is also taking steps in that direction. They recently introduced some guidelines encouraging more flexible work arrangements, including the possibility of a 4-day week in some sectors.
It feels like there's a real shift happening, especially in places with traditionally demanding work cultures.
Definitely. It's like people are starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, there's a better way to work.
So, to sum it all up, we have a government tackling a declining birth rate and potentially reshaping their entire work culture, all with one big experiment, a 4-day work week. It's pretty amazing to watch unfold.
It really is. And it makes you think, if this trend continues, What could it mean for the future of work? How would our lives, our families, even our economy change if we all had an extra day off every week? It's a pretty big question, isn't it?
It is a big, exciting, maybe even a little bit scary question.
Definitely a lot to think about.
And we hope you'll join us in thinking about it. We'll be sure to include links to the research we mentioned in the show notes so you can dive in yourself.
Yeah, check it out. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this whole 4-day work week thing. Let us know what you think on social media.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.